Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of GTM Secrets, everything about go-to-market, sales, marketing, RevOps, you name it. Today, I'm really excited. We have a pretty awesome guest on the line here, Doug Laux. I said that right. Correct, Doug?
Yeah.
Awesome. I want him to give a little bit of background on himself. He has a very interesting career, CIA to Netflix to Discovery Channel. I may have those two flipped. All over the board. Doug, do you mind giving a little bit of background on yourself here, man?
Hey, Stephen, how's it going? Yeah, you said it. I can expand wherever you want, but I used to be obviously in the CIA, did that for a while. When I got out, I worked for JSOC, Joint Special Operations, for a few years. And along that time, I wrote a book. So if you're looking for the transition, I'd say that was the biggest thing. Because I wrote a book about my past and what I used to do in the CIA. And then obviously people in Hollywood had read it and were like, oh, we can probably make some money on this. So I started to get phone calls after that. And I don't know. I mean, I tell everybody, and it's kind of like even doing your podcast here. I spoke with you beforehand. You're a friend of a friend. So happy to be here, happy to do it. But otherwise, I don't really. And so, yeah, the transition was not normal to say the least, because definitely when you start out in Hollywood, they want to start you at the bottom, right? And you got to work your way up and prove it like
Sure.
anything else. But mine was, hey, if you like the book, I know how to write. Here's a television show I wrote. And they like that too. So I kind of, jumped a bunch of lines in doing that. And then that was,
What made you write a book in the first place?
well, I really didn't have anything to do or have a plan B when I got out. And I know that sounds
Okay.
like I was such an idiot, but if you read the book, I talk a lot about how, and even now it's kind of strange to talk about it because I haven't experienced anything like it, but the stress of the job and just how difficult everything was around me, just looking at yourself in the mirror, like, I can't do this anymore. Somebody else is tougher than me and they can do it. God bless, but like, I don't want to do this anymore and I got to get out of this. And, so yeah,
How
it's
long
been a
were
lot.
you in?
What's that?
How long were you in?
I was in the agency for 7 years and then JSOC for 3. So a full decade.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the book is Left of Boom, correct? That's the one
Mm-hmm.
you're referring to?
Yep.
Got it. Awesome. Little plug for you. Is it on Amazon? Where should people buy it?
Yeah. It's on Amazon. It was a New York Times bestseller. So pretty much anywhere you can buy books, you can buy it online. So, but definitely on Amazon. And I'll get a whole nickel if you buy one.
Fair enough.
So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. What I'm curious about, and you already alluded to it a little bit, I'm going to jump around a little bit from what we talked about beforehand. You mentioned a lot of stress, and I can't imagine. I work ridiculously long hours running a couple of companies. I'm under a ridiculous amount of stress. Did you learn anything? And I know tons of others are in the same boat, especially in the startup world. Was there anything that you learned from your time back in the agency that helped you manage stress once you got more into the business and media world? Never been in media, but I hear it's dog eat dog. I mean, is there anything that you applied from your old days back into media?
Oh yeah. Going in that direction, definitely nothing was anything at that point. Like before you join the agency, I stubbed my toe and I'm going to complain about it for a week. After I get out of the agency, it's like you can lose your foot and you're like, I still got another one. Like, big deal, like we're going to keep it going. So Hollywood is really tough. And a lot of people, quit after their first go at it or second or 10th go at it. And yeah, I took everything that I had learned at the agency and it was like, this is nothing. I heard your no. I got it, but you will say yes. And here's why. I don't know if that sounds arrogant or cocky or not, but it really is the truth. And especially with Hollywood, if you don't know anybody, that's really where it's at. You got to know someone who knows someone to get you in. And I knew no one. So I was like, all right, you guys called me, so don't waste my time. Do you want to do this or not? Because I don't care if you say no. I'll just go back to the Midwest and hang out with my friends who I haven't seen for a decade. And they knew that. Like, he's going to leave. He really is not going to try again. So for better or worse, that kind of worked in my favor too, just going all in from the get-go, and not really wanting to repeat it and try it 4 times to get it right, or 5 times or 6. So I
Yeah.
think that was my mindset, though then that was 10, 12 years ago, so I was a little bit younger back then.
Well, going off what you said, so when I started my career, I was working for family HR consulting company. And when I was learning sales, what my dad told me was have the mindset of, you need me, you just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
So sure, little bit of arrogance, but it gets you through, it keeps you,
Yeah, and I think a way to kind of water down that arrogance, especially with the person you're trying to get something from, is being knowledgeable of what happens if they don't do it, or at least having a story or a line to tell them, look, I get it that you don't want to do that, but if you don't do that, here's what's going to happen. And,
yeah,
having proof that that is what's going to happen. I'm sure you see that a lot with like tech things, like, and this is me, you can tell how simple I am. No, if you don't install this software, like, it's going to ruin everything. You have to do this. And then they don't,
yeah,
and everything's ruined. And you're like, what I tell you, like I said, do this, you
right.
didn't do it. So now here we are.
Excuse me. So it sounds like some of it was maybe just perspective. The world may feel like it's fallen apart, but when you come out from the background that you did, you realize a lot of issues are actually small in comparison to what you could be going through, and just have a different perspective. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. And being cognizant that others have probably experienced the same, being as, we grew up in the middle of the war. So you could swing a dead cat and hit somebody who's had it tougher than you, who did 10 tours. Wow, you did 3. That's nothing. So, but also, yeah, being cognizant that not everyone has had it, cookie cutter, easy, icing on top. Some people have worked harder than you, and they're going to be more competitive than you can possibly imagine. So, yeah, I think being aware of what you offer, but what others do as well is important.
Got it. So you mentioned you had no plan B when you got into media, and it sounds like media reached out to you based on the book. Did I hear that correctly?
Right. Yeah.
So what was the first job that you had, and having no backup plan, not being sure if it's going to work out in Hollywood? I mean, talk to me about what it was like going through that, and start off with, what was the first job? Was it writing? Was it, I can't imagine it was executive producing for Netflix and Discovery like you ended up doing. Like, just
Yeah.
walk me through those early years, because
Yeah, it
in the
was.
startup world, I think a lot of people can relate to that. I bet the entire farm on Identity Matrix, my company, headed towards, if I didn't get funding when I did, headed towards bankruptcy, you name it, life's falling apart. A little bit of burn the boats as well, but I want to hear from your very different perspective than mine.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was after everything I'd kind of been through previously. From here on out, I'm really only going to do things that I want to do. I don't want to sit in an office pecking at a computer all day, waiting for 5 p.m. Like, I can't do that. Like, I don't want to do it. And I physically just want to be able to. I wouldn't like that at all. So, just kind of knowing ahead of time, like, if you really do want to do it, then you probably should devote all of your attention to that one thing. Like, I know a lot of people try to spread out. And, when I left the agency in 2013, me and a friend, he's obviously way more tech than I, were working on a company together. But there were like 6 other things he was working on too. You know, he had like 6 startups at the same time.
Yep.
And my thing was, well, I'm just working on this one project with you. That's all I do. So to me, it became really, really important. Whereas he had something in Dallas tomorrow. Then he has to be in Miami for this. And then he has to be in New York for this other one. And then for ours, yeah, I'm going to miss that. Can you handle it? And so it kind of just became my project. But it was the thing
Yeah.
that I was most devoted to. So I don't know. I think this message that gets put out there now of like broaden your horizons and, you know, apply to everything and have all of these different opportunities. I think you really just actually need to sit down and say, realistically, what can I do? I can't dunk a basketball. I'm not going in the NBA. I'm not playing against
Yep.
LeBron. No matter how much I want to, it's not happening. Don't be stupid. But here are the things that I've studied. Here's what I'm good at. Okay, what could I do? I like that. I want to do that right there. I'm going to focus on that, not these 4 other things that I could do. That one thing right there, I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to do these in the meantime. You know, I want to do that, so I'm going to focus on it until I get it or I don't. Then I'll fall back. But too often as well, and I have friends that do this, they're in these positions they don't really like, and I know what they want to do and they know what they want to do, but they're stuck because they took this one as like a
Yeah.
holding position for that ultimate goal that they really have in that real position. Well, I'm just waiting for that guy to retire, or, well, you know, I'm waiting for more money on this to do that. Well, you're stuck right now. So, and now you have a family and children. So you're probably going to stay there. Sorry, we got older, you know, like, and I just feel bad that they didn't take the opportunity to really drive forward and go, I'm not wasting my time with these like B team projects. I want to be on the A team. I know I can do it and I know they can do it. So I'm going to focus on it and I'm going to achieve it. And, you know, some people do that.
I realized early on, embarrassing fact, but when I was working back for my dad and kicked off my career, typical cliche, lowest paid, hardest working, you know, earn your stripes thing, did really well, ended up starting doing sales consulting on the side. I ended up getting fired by my dad because I was so diverted between the two things. As in, I don't know what's with the balloons here. Little finger motions, I guess. Never seen that on this platform.
It's celebrating getting
But yeah,
fired.
yeah, exactly. But literally got fired and had to go all in and the burn the boats mentality to figure it out. So I completely get the sentiment there. Now, and I have a very limited understanding, but my understanding of a CIA case officer is you're working on building connections, influencing, building relationships. That's really the crux of it. How did that translate over to building connections in the business world? What did you do differently that maybe others don't based on your background that could be applied to anyone?
Yeah, well, in the agency, they're going to teach you that the most important thing with influencing somebody, getting them to work for you, basically, you have to know what they really want. And to some people, that may sound really difficult, but depending on who it is, and the majority of the time, whether you want to hear this or not, I'm going to tell you right now, it's money. And you can deny that and go, no, it's, you know, patriotism. No, it's faith. No, it's not. No, it's money. And when you know that that's their primary motivating factor is money, then that's all you really have to worry about too. And I, you know, transfer over, and granted it's Hollywood, so it's pretty weird. To some people, that is all that matters as well, but they're also the easiest to deal with because I know exactly what's on your mind. And I know exactly what you stand to gain from this. And I know what you want out of this. So I know what I have to do to provide that or to help that to happen for you. But when you run into people and that's not their primary factor, or it's an actual company that you're trying to sell to, and they do have a motivation to, maybe it's help in the Middle East, maybe it's help in Africa, maybe it's a larger project that they have, and they're nonprofit, and it's not about money. With the humans involved, you still then need to figure out what it is that motivates them and how you can help that, how you can provide towards that. So maybe it's some issue or something that happened in their past, and that's why they're doing what they're doing now. And you learn that and say, oh, let me get extra familiar with that and participate in what they're participating in. And I know that sounds all kind of, generic and everything, but the vast majority of the time, and I don't know how it puts me out there, but I say it anyway, it is money. So whether it's business, definitely if it's espionage, if you can figure out why that is, how much they have in mind, then you can attach other factors to it. Like, oh, because they're greedy. Oh, because they're in debt. Oh, because they want to buy this one thing. Oh, because they want to get out of this country and travel. Whatever it is, it still takes money to do it. So again, whether it's a company, whether it's Hollywood and it's a production studio, do they think that the show that you wrote is going to make them money? Well, what does that mean? Are people going to watch it? Well, then it better be good. So you need to explain why people are going to watch it, why it's good, and how they're going to be able to advertise during the series that you've written to make the money. And, proof's in the pudding. If they do and they get the numbers, then they're going to want to continue to work with you.
I think where in both sales and marketing, people get it wrong is they look at a company as the entity they're selling into, when in reality, a business is nothing more than a file folder at the IRS.
Yeah.
The individual that you're talking to cares about their personal income.
Yep.
So I'm in the marketing tech space, right? I could go say, I can make your company a crap ton of money, or I can apply it to that specific person. Do you want to go get a raise? Do you want to increase your status in your company? But linking it to the person, whereas I think sales and marketers turn it directly into, well, you have a problem in your company, I can save the company money. Who the hell cares? It doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. I don't think there's enough. Go ahead.
I was just going to say you're 100% right. And the biggest problem, and the reason you don't hear anyone talking about it, is because no one wants to talk about it, because no one wants to admit that that's the truth. I mean, you can take whatever biggest company, and I'm not going to name one because I don't want sued, but Company X, that makes the world's greatest soft drink. Maybe the vice president doesn't even like the taste. Maybe he wouldn't drink that soft drink if his life depended on it. But he makes a lot of money as the vice president of sales. Okay, or whatever his position is. So why are you talking about this is going to make your customers more happy? This is going to make the public more happy? And I know how base this sounds and probably a little bit cruel, but I'm just talking reality. If you tell the same person hey, this is going to make 50 people smile on the street, or this is going to make you $50,000, he'd be stupid not to go for the $50,000. Anybody would. And to say you wouldn't, I can't believe you. I'm not here to do with you, Stephen, the happy-go-lucky podcast of rainbows and sunshine. Let's be real about how the real world works. And you said it, you got fired from the family business. That's reality.
Yep.
There's no way. He didn't really get fired. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did, so, but it's a lesson learned.
I got shit canned for real.
Yeah. So,
I think that's one part of it, linking it to that person. I think the other thing is, in my experience, if you ask 10 people what they want, 9 people are just going to riddle off what they don't want. Well, I don't want to be in debt. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to have this pressure, etc. But sales and marketers never flip that into, it's problem solution, and that doesn't work anymore. It used to. Now it's problem possibility path. What do you actually want? I hear you don't want all the stress on your plate in marketing or what have you. Here's what that would look like. Here's how you would get there. And oh, by the way, I can do that for you. Does that translate into your experience as well? Would you agree most people will tell you what they don't want, but they're not clear on what they actually do want to get to the money?
Yeah, I think they'll tell you what they don't want, but they have no idea really how to get rid of that problem.
Yeah.
Too often they recognize that they're stuck and they just accept it and they just deal with it and they really don't think about it much. So yeah, people will talk about the things they don't want, but rare is it that they'll tell me their solution on how to get that taken away. So again, in my experience, even to bring those things up and say, hey, I can get rid of all of that. I can make life so much easier for you. Let's just do it this way. What's easier for us both is if I just say, what would help? X amount of money. So why don't we do this? And either you'll make that or I can provide that, or however we get to that X amount of money, let's focus on that. And that's really all it is. You don't need to be talking about the fame that you're going to have in Taipei. Like, that's so far down the line. Don't worry about it, man. Especially with a startup. Stop. Like, what do you need? You need money as a startup. You need money. Like, you need to keep it going. You need to keep the motor running.
Yep.
That requires money. And there's a lot of expenses, and you're penny pitching every day, watching your numbers like, oh man, can we do that? Oof, then I can't do this. Dang. And you're just switching it around, leveling it. So yeah, money's really important to you as well. But I get really annoyed when people get mad at me for saying that, and they're living kind of on a cloud with hope in their eyes that it's really about kindness and, the rainbow that they saw this morning. That's nice and good for you, but that guy who's buying doesn't care about any of that. He wants to see the numbers, and either they're going up or there's nothing else, because I don't want to see anything that's going down.
Yeah.
Or,
I think for my sales and marketing and tech nerds, one of the companies that I've seen this do really well in ads and whatnot is called Data Rails. Not that, Doug, I know you're not a tech guy, but for the tech nerds listening, Data Rails target CFOs. They do financial planning and analysis software. And they specifically talk about how they make the CFO the rock star of the company. They specifically help the CFO reduce their stress, get promotions, etc., or raises, whatever. It's not, it can save you a bunch of money and time. No one gives a shit anymore. Again, the company doesn't matter. The personal relationship and what you get that person matters. So yeah. I would encourage everyone to go check out some of their ads. I want to switch topics a little bit. So we talked about some of your intelligence work, but how does intelligence play into the role in media? And let me preface that with, startups and going through an investment round and whatnot. I don't care if you're, late stage $1 billion companies like OpenAI just raised like 6 or 7 billion. You have my company. We raised a little bit in our first round. It's all about showing the investors that you have intelligence on the market. You believe you can penetrate X, Y, Z, whatever. On the media side, I assume that there's some intelligence around here's how well a show can do. Your Discovery show, your Netflix show, etc. How does that work? How do people think about, oh shit, here's how many viewers we can get and therefore ad dollars, etc. Like, where does that even start? Were you involved in that?
yeah, that's a super intense area too for media, obviously. Probably the most intense and most important. And it's factored by age groups. obviously, amongst other things. But the most important that they'll separate it out to are age groups. And, like I'll just use one, for example, like 18 to 34, 18 to 34
Mhm.
males even, right? And so they'll have an entire PDF file, 800 pages long, on what that age group of men like between 18 and 34. And it's this and it's this. So they're going to hit you with that too. And I'm using it because that is an actual example with Escobar's Millions that I wrote. They would come back to me and say, well, it's our understanding that this project would appeal to the 18 to 34-year-old audience. So it needs to be at this time and it needs to follow this show, which is going to lead into your show. And it's a build of intensity. And they're like, they have all of that figured out and how they want to do it and what show is going to come on before you, what's going to come on after you, how long yours should be. Should it be a half hour? Should it be an hour? How long is the attention span? And they can look at what has been done before. They can see what other shows were on at 10 p.m. on a Friday. How did they do? Well, according to our stats, they weren't doing the things in this PDF file, or they were, and those didn't work. So let's change what that says. But for really any age group, they have an entire file that they follow pretty closely. And I'm sure some would pound their fists and that's not how it works. Well, I've done 3 shows now, and that kind of is how it's worked with me. And that's what you guys push at me in 50 emails a day. So yeah, that is how it works. But yeah, you say that, as a startup, they want to see, do you have the intelligence? Do you know what's going on? What makes you different? Some will say that.
Yeah.
With writing a show, whether it's a TV show, film is a lot different now because of COVID. Biography, they all have their different characteristics and what type of network will purchase them and want to air them. So like a biography, up until probably this year, really the only one who was doing that was Netflix. You didn't see like a lot of biographical shows on a Hulu or Paramount. Now you see them starting to pick up on that, or reality shows. Those two were kind of more of a Netflix thing. And now you see them following that too. So I don't know, with me, both of my shows were on networks. They weren't streaming. My next one will be streaming. So probably learn a lot here coming up in about a month. But I think with your term of intelligence, business-wise, what you see is they want to know if you have an intelligence on the market. With TV, I think more than having an intelligence, they want to just know you're responsible. Quite frankly, like, can we depend on this individual? Not, does he know more about what's going on in the industry? But if we decide to work with him, can we even?
How much? So what you were describing sounds like pattern recognition, right? This worked on a Friday, this worked on a Thursday after XYZ show. But to a certain, and like on Netflix, for example, my wife, I swear it's the same murder show every day, but it's a different murder, right? They're all the frickin' same.
Yeah.
We're watching the Menendez brothers documentary, and then it's, whatever. They all feel the same. How much was it pattern recognition versus you actually have to do something different, right? You want to follow what worked. And I think, let me preface that with sales and marketers and startups all want to be different. They want to be the unicorns. They want to, go against the grain, and they do the exact opposite of their competition. And then you have some companies that are super vanilla and let's just copy everybody else and try to follow, the path of least resistance. The answer, I imagine, has got to be somewhere in the middle for companies, but I assume that applies to media as well. You can't do the same thing over and over and over, like every survivor show or murder show or whatever. Like, how do you balance that? How do you identify this is what we're doing differently? This is the pattern that we're going to follow, though.
Yeah. Media wise, it's a little bit, it's kind of the same thing twice in that they'll say, this is completely different. We're going to do it totally different this time. And so they'll hire a bunch of writers and say they want it written differently. And we're going to blow the cover off with this one. But by the time it airs, it's been so massaged by production that it's
Sure.
pretty close to what you've seen before. So like,
Okay.
look, you use the example. What happened with the Menendez brothers is not at all what happened with O.J. Simpson. But I bet if you watch those two films together, they're kind of similar in how they're produced, and they're kind of similar in how they feel. And if you watched one right
Yeah.
after the other, you'd be like, this is probably the same director. Like, did these come out on the same day? Because I saw the first episode of the Menendez thing, and I thought, yeah, this is just like that OJ series that was on. That was so good. But yeah, Hollywood, a little bit different but maybe the business world is too. You can probably talk to that, where you come in with something hot that no one's ever seen before and they love it and they're going to buy it, but then they're going to massage it more into their brand and what's already working.
Mhm.
And they're kind of taking you off the market too. So, you sold Pepsi to Coke. They don't still sell Pepsi now. They're selling Coke, so
Right.
definitely with Hollywood being different. I don't know. You'll see a lot of the same movies or series that come out at the same time because that's what's hot right now. Let's hit it while it's hot.
Yeah.
Pablo Escobar, when I wrote that show, initially wasn't about Pablo Escobar, but the show Narcos was a massive hit. It was the #1 hit in America. And so it was like, well,
One of my favorite shows.
yeah, it was good. It was really good. And so I was like, let's just make this about Pablo Escobar. And in fact, we can get the real guys who were the DEA agents in that show to be in our show. So you're getting kind of the same thing, different style, but ultimately very similar product in the end. Then you got to be comfortable
Makes
with
sense.
that.
I think again, marketers tend to be a little visionary. Same thing with sales a little bit, but probably to a lesser extent. And everyone wants to be different, the purple squirrel in the market, whatever, analogy you want to use. And sure, I'll use the example of like OpenAI obviously came out with ChatGPT, took everyone by storm, etc. But now I swear you look at recent funding rounds, every AI company is doing the same shit. They're all copying OpenAI, and yet they're all successful. Yes, you can have an industry leader, but I think people need to stop being focused on, well, I want to be the next OpenAI or the next, Salesforce in the CRM world or whatever industry or vertical you're talking about. If it's already established, yeah, follow the path of least resistance to a certain extent, follow the pattern. I think people try to be too different. It's
Stephen,
just my personal opinion.
no, and you're right, because frankly, that's what we were taught. I have a business degree, and that was an everyday thing. Like, you're going to be the next Bill Gates. You're going to be the next Elon Musk. You and you alone. And it's like, no, them and them alone. Like, hey, I'm
Yeah,
cool with making a startup and getting $10 million and being happy. Yay. Like, I don't need infinite money, Elon Musk style. But that was how we were
right.
taught. I mean, every class, was, and if you learn marketing, sales, whatever, you too can be the next Elon Musk. You think he started out just think, or look at how the original Google was in a garage, blah, blah, blah. And all of these like big fairy tale imaginary stories. And it's like, well, there are about 10,000 other things that were going on with Google and those guys, besides just waking up, going into a garage, turning on a computer, and then selling their company. There was a
Yeah.
lot more going on there. So yeah, I don't know. I always find that too, kind of like the money thing. Well, this is what we were trained. This is what we were taught. Like, your product can be that purple squirrel, as you say. And it's like, yo, I'm cool with it being a squirrel that does really well. We need another
Yeah.
one. Can we just do that? You know, but it's
I,
this drive to be the most successful, number one, where I think a lot of people fail. And when they're a startup and they're coming up, they're trying to compete with Microsoft on day one. And it's like, why don't you wait about 25 years and then let's roll those dice again?
I think a really good book is Outliers. Have you ever read that?
I have.
It's very interesting, and don't quote me on the numbers, but it's like if Rockefeller was born, I think it was like 2 years earlier, 2 years later, he never would have had the success he did. Most NHL players are born in January or something like that. Maybe it's February because of how the leagues fall and how early you get started playing with older kids. Like, there's so many different circumstances, and to a certain extent, I don't care how hard you work, some of it is luck. I
Yeah.
really hope I get some luck, and I'll compensate by working my ass off harder than anybody, but follow things that work to a certain extent. That doesn't mean don't be any different, but I fully agree. Stop trying to chase Elon Musk.
Yeah. Please. I'm sure he's getting tired of it too.
He's a busy guy. I think he's even on Joe Rogan or something like that saying, you don't want to be me. You don't want to, be as busy as me. You don't want to have the same chaos in my head as me. I think the grass is always greener on the other side, and people don't realize that. I wouldn't want to be Elon Musk. Who doesn't want the resources and ability to, just give the middle finger to anyone that you want? But no, I think that some of it's luck, some of it is God bless that person. I don't want to be that person. Here, switching topics a little bit, I imagine that there is a certain formula that goes into here's how we structure a good TV show. Here's how we, in marketing, there's what's called story brand. Even our site is based on it. You tell a story with your brand. You try to, on a landing page, you're trying to elicit the right emotions at the right time. And I assume that that's the case in media. I assume that could be the case when you're talking about your intelligence experience. What did your experience teach you about storytelling, whether it's in a TV show or when you're trying to build a relationship? Is there anything centered around that you may have picked up on?
On the telling of a story, like how to make a story compelling, or what do
Yeah,
you mean?
exactly. How do you make a story compelling? How do you elicit the right emotions? Is there frameworks that you use? Is it down to a science where by minute 13 in this show, we need to escalate into a new conflict or, whatever? I'm making it up, obviously.
Yeah. Well, that's, I'd say, where Hollywood and my past are quite a bit different because, yes, in Hollywood, it is structured like that. Like, by minute 13, this does need to happen. And that's good because we're used to it. And you really don't see a lot of variation in that. I mean, sometimes you get a movie like Memento. I don't know if you've seen that or not. Like, it's just
No.
it's all over the place. It's really good though. It starts in the middle, then it goes to the end, and you see the ending, and then it's in the beginning, and you kind of, just because we're not used to it, you get a little bit lost. And so,
That,
you may have only watched half of it, and you give it, a 3 out of 5. But if you had stuck
that,
through, you might have given it the 5 out of 5 because it was a really good movie. So I think that's probably in the Hollywood style, is making sure that you do have it written in such a way that they understand it and that you're not trying to, as you said, do the purple squirrel thing and go, no, 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 we're going to start at the end and show you who the bad guy is, then go all the way back, and then we'll be in the middle, and then we'll go. And I see that, that jump around quite a bit now. I'd like to see how it is written in the screenplay, because it'd be kind of confusing just to be reading that and be like, why is he
Sure.
13 now? This guy's 40. Now he's 13. So you really have to do a good
Yeah.
job explaining there's a transition here. Probably easier to show. But in the agency, if you want to talk about like getting emotions and getting them to really feel it, uh, the storytelling can go both ways. Yeah, as a case officer, you have to be able to tell a good story and be compelling because you want them to like you as a person and you want them to trust you, even if your story is total bullshit. You know, you got to come
Sure.
off as authentic. But knowing that, you also got to make sure that the person telling you a story, that it's real and that it's legitimate. Or why are we doing any of this? So sometimes you'll get people that would come in that they're telling a grandiose story. This can't be true. Like, there's just no way. Other times you'll have somebody who doesn't understand the importance of what they're saying. So they'll be telling you a story and totally leave out that part about that IED. Whoa, back up. No, that's the story. So educating them on that. So they're quite a bit different between espionage and Hollywood. But I don't know, you tell me. I would assume that it's even for a third, quite a bit different in the tech industry as well.
I think it's really difficult, and everyone takes their so a lot of companies will pitch, here's again problem solution, and the story is about here's what you're dealing with today, yada yada yada. Okay, solution. And then I think others, I'll give an example of Story Brand, which is kind of like the current marketing genius. I forget the guy's name that wrote it, but it's a framework for like, here's how your landing page should be structured, here's how that should be structured, etc. I think people have gotten it down too far to a science, though, to where they reduce it to science and they don't care necessarily about that person and what emotions they're eliciting.
Yeah.
So I have it nailed down. Like, I've done a lot of sales consulting. I do have discovery calls and needs analysis and whatever type of calls you want to come up with. I do have it down to, well, we're going to really make them feel like shit at first. We're going to really help them understand where they're at. We're going to really help them understand where they want to go and get more of those aspirational feelings. And then we connect more of the dots. But how you do that is different for every person. How you resonate is different with every person. I was in Entrepreneur magazine years ago bashing the hell out of scripts because scripts don't work. You can't build an authentic relationship off scripts. You can't tell an authentic story based on scripts. You can't relate it to the person based on scripts. So you got to give people some freedom to sell and market in a way that's authentic to them. I'm curious on your take. Even more important than being liked, they have to trust you. So I think a lot of my, I don't want to say a lot of my clients, some of my clients, they may not even like me, but they trust me because they know I'm not going to feed them a line of BS.
Yeah.
I'm curious if that's the same in your experience. Would you say they're the same thing, or is there a difference between trusting somebody and actually liking them?
Yeah, there's a big difference. And, with my old job, anybody that I was talking to in Afghanistan, 9 out of 10 of them hate me because they're Taliban, like on a whole new level, so, but they'll still do what I want. Well, how do you do that? These, these people really want your death, but they're still willing to help you. And you want them to trust you that if they go take a risk for you and go do something dangerous, that what you agreed upon is going to happen. Totally
Yeah.
easy. Yeah. A lot of times it's money. So they're going to trust me when they go do what I asked them to do. And it happened. And I know it happened. And they come back and tell me that it happened and show me that it happened. Then I pay you. And we continue to do that. And you build that trust over time through that. Okay. But maybe they want you to do something for them. I'll do it if you do this. Okay. Well, if you agree to it, then you better do it. You know, that's really the
Yeah.
only way to get the trust is you said you were going to do that. And, you know, one of the things that drives me absolutely nuts is the lack that I experience now with people who give a shit about time. Uh, If you're 10 minutes late, I'm leaving. I'm sorry. And I know everyone today thinks 10 minutes is not a long time. Just watch a Taylor Swift video on YouTube on your phone and then they'll be there. Not for me. No, we said 10. You're supposed to be there at 9:55 and you weren't.
Yeah.
In fact, you probably should have been there at 9:30 and parked, sat in your car because this is an important meeting and you didn't. You
Yeah.
showed up at 10:10. I've already left and I've done that both in Hollywood and in my past life. We had the 2-minute window. And if it didn't happen in a matter of 2 minutes, I said 10. So it better happen at between 9:58 and 10 or between 10 and 10:02. You had a 2-minute
Yep.
window. It's a grand total of 4 minutes for you to do what I asked you to do. Because at 10:03, I'm gone. And that's kind of stayed with me as well. And people find it so, like, they gasp when it's 10:06 and they're walking in to the conference room. I'm like, I'm leaving. That happened all the time during Escobar. I'd be like, you said be here at 10. It's 10:06. I'm glad you got your coffee, but you wasted 6 minutes of my day. And Doug's a blowhard. No, I'm trying to teach you that my time is valuable. Is yours? Then be there when you said you were going to be there, you know? So, but, yeah, I get a lot
I
of
think there's
pushback on that.
I think there's two ways that translates to business. One, you're showing that you respect yourself. And if you don't respect yourself, how could you respect anybody else? But then two, it shows walkaway power. I don't need your business. I don't need this. I want it. And I would love to work with you. But if we can't talk at a peer-to-peer level and trust each other, then no offense, go screw yourself. I think one of the interesting things when I was back in my sales consulting days, I would literally get on the phone and say, look, before I tell you what I'm really good at, I will tell you I suck at most things in life. And here are the cases in which you don't want to use me. And it builds a lot of trust. They know that you're not just going to feed them a line.
Yeah.
I was shocked at how much it actually worked.
Well, I'll also give an example. I was in sales for 2 years before my first job out of college, before I joined the agency. And talk about building trust. I worked for a shipping company and, you know, everything was going okay, whatever. But there was this a factory that sold a lot of parts to China. Well, guess what? To ship and receive from China costs a lot of money, especially if you're doing it by air and especially if it's heavy. So I wanted this business, and the guy who was the decision maker was just like, no, we worked with you guys before, and the package was like 2 days late, and we can't have that. Like, it has to be there when you said it was going to be there. And I thought about it for a while. And again, this is sitting down and just what's important to me? Where am I at? What's it worth for me to do this? What happens if it succeeds? And if it fails, okay, if that fails, I'm going to lose my job. But if it succeeds, I'm going to definitely be like salesman of the year. I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
And I went in and I told him, I promise you this, if it's not there in 2 days, when you look and it hasn't arrived, I will personally fly to China and I will quit my job and I'll see your package through. You have my word. Now, I didn't have to do that. I got lucky. Thank God that it showed up. I got super lucky. But here's the deal. I put it on the line to him. And would I have actually flown to China? Probably not. But would I have had to stop talking to him to the point of him thinking I quit? Yeah, I would have definitely had to never come into that factory again. That's a lost client. But when I said that to him with conviction, he was like, you'd really do that? I'm like, yeah, because I'm tired of you not trusting me. Like, we're 98% of the time we're there within 2 days. You're
Yeah.
not in the 2%. You're in the 98%. I'm willing to put my job on it. And he was like, okay, let's just see then. And it was there.
Yep.
And so we got that business. Now I have no idea what happened 2 weeks later, but I'm sure a lot of people that are watching this are probably going, what world do these two live in? Where they think that you can just talk that way, or you can just go right out and say that, or, oh, it's just about money. It's not about smiles. I don't know. I'm at the age where I've kind of just stopped worrying about any of that. And I just focus on, from what I have experienced, what it is the majority of the time, rather than sit here and speak with you, Stephen, because you're a smart dude. And we both give a bunch of platitudes to each other about, always go in with a smile and a firm handshake and look the customer directly in the eyes and have your chest out and, your feet forward and have on nice shiny shoes. No, because they really don't care. You can show up in a tie-dye t-shirt and go, I'm going to save you $50,000 today. Here's how. I'm going to step into my office. This is great. This is great. So, yeah.
I think within a certain realm of reason, having the I don't give a crap attitude works. Or I'm not going to get emotionally tied into your emotions. I'm going to talk to you from facts. I'm going to get the job done. And that conviction, I like that word that you use, conviction, that serves far greater than, being in a suit, looking all fancy, schmoozing somebody. Doesn't feel authentic in any way, shape, or form. I know I did almost no sales the first 18 months, and I was broke in my first sales job because I was trying to emulate, this guy over here, super polished and formal. Then at that time, I had my dad who, sold the complete opposite way. And I made no money trying to emulate either one of them. And then all of a sudden, when I picked up the phone or got into a meeting and it was like, this shit's not going to go well anyways, I might as well just do what I want. Boom. I started making more money than I could ask for at 18, 19 years old. People like when you're yourself, and the more polished you come off, I would say the less believable you are. You can't hide behind formality.
Right.
And I think that's what far too many salespeople do.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Hide behind formality.
Yeah. Now, here's my next question. You've been successful in media. You went from CIA, nobody knew you, as you stated, no relationships, to doing very well, Discovery, Netflix, etc. It sounds like you have a new show coming out too as well. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, next month on Netflix.
What's it about, if you can share?
Well, again,
if you can't share, tell me
what you know. No, it's about conspiracies.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll look for that. But how did you go about branding yourself in a competitive media space? How did you build brand, your own personal brand, build, reputation within the space, et cetera?
Well, look, with what I write, that kind of is proof is in the pudding. If I'm writing the show, either it's good or it's not. Again, like, let's stop with the rainbows. Like, either this is good or it's not good. Like, this is shit. Like, no one would watch this. Or, oh, wow, that's a great sequence right there. Oh my God, people would love that. If you can get producers thinking that way, then you're a pretty good writer, So, but as far as like being on the camera or anything like that, I had no clue what I was doing, and still, I'm no expert or pro. But what was it that you asked that I wanted to answer there? I forget.
Well, it sounds like you did to a certain extent. Proof's in the pudding. How did you build a relationship and brand awareness in the media space?
Oh, yeah.
Get attention of some of the big companies that you've worked with. Like, I know Ubisoft is on there. Netflix, etc. How did you build your brand to where they gave a shit about you?
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, with writing, it was always the product. Um, but too often, like, people are curious why I'm not more active on social media, or why haven't they seen me more on TV? Did I do something wrong? Because they liked the last show I was in. Um, and quite frankly, there's not a lot of other people from the agency that are on television. Some write books, but there's not a lot of competition out there. Uh, but at the same time, it goes back to what I meant with how you write something. If we haven't seen it before or read something like this before in this format before, we may feel uncomfortable with that and kind of quit early. So with me and my background, very rare is it that somebody that I'm speaking with has been a former spy. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be like
Sure.
me talking to you about your business and trying to educate you on it. You'd be like, dude, like,
Yeah.
stop. I get it. You went to my LinkedIn, like, cut the shit. So, yeah, it's just been, you can tell I'm a little bit even confused on how to answer it, but hopefully I did.
No, I think what you said is key. The proof's in the pudding. So, like when I first got on social, and the only place that I have a good following is LinkedIn. But when I first got on social, I'd put up like the cheesy quotes and phrases and memes and stupid crap no one cared about, trying to build brand awareness. When I started posting things that were factual about my business or where I did well, where I did bad, yeah, some of it's authenticity, but you're talking about stats. And all of a sudden you get a LinkedIn message or what have you, where it's like, okay, that's really cool. Can we talk about what you could do for me or so on and so forth? I think emotions are often missing in sales and marketing, but conversely, I don't think people put enough stock into what are the facts. I think, you keep using the phrase, let's do away with the sunshine and rainbows. Just say what's happening. I think people don't do that nearly enough, and putting your money where your mouth is. Just like you were talking about earlier with the shipping, just like you're talking about now, is my writing good or does it suck? You tell me. I think people need to rely back on their expertise as opposed to trying to make everyone feel warm and fuzzy. That's not my style either. I can't do it. It comes off super inauthentic. I'm not a warm, fuzzy person. You can ask my wife. So I hear what you're saying, man.
Yeah, right on.
This, I think, is probably the most interesting podcast that we've done. I think this is super helpful and brings a lot of perspective to sales and marketers, whether they're enterprise or startups. I know we talked a lot about startups, etc. Really appreciate you coming on, man. Is there anything else, any other thoughts, something that I should have asked, related to your experience that you think could be helpful in the business world?
Uh, yeah, I mean, look, a lot of what we talked about and a lot of the things that I said here, I'm certain that there'll be people who leave comments that are like, that's not how it works, or that, what world do they live in? Like, no, that's inaccurate. Have you tried it? And maybe you'll say, oh, if I try it, I'll get fired. You clearly don't know. Well, then do it. Like, do it. I just told 2 or 3 stories about looking at it going, I will be fired if I do that. I wrote
Yeah.
4 or 5 stories in my book about going into senior officer's office in a t-shirt going, I'm not going to Baghdad. Well, then fire me. And look at all this training and money we've just wasted, because I'm confident in myself and I'm certain that you understand I'm leaving if we don't do it this way. You can go, well, that's arrogant and you're a fool. I didn't get fired and I got what I wanted. So who
Yeah.
won that situation? Yeah, I'm sure I came off as a real asshole to the senior officers that I was talking to, but I was passionate. Conviction. I knew that this would work, and I knew why, and I had facts. And here are the previous cables. that show that this way and this methodology works. So let's do it this way. Then you get the blessing and it works. If it doesn't, well, then it is on you. And you have to be responsible for that. You know, how many shows have I written since Escobar? Probably 20, 30, you know, and no, this isn't a good fit right now. Oh, you know, we were looking for something with people wearing masks because COVID, you know, like just dumb stuff like that. Could the rooster and the hen cross the road? So it's dumb. And like you're laughing, I laugh too when I read some of these emails, like, what is going on? But yeah, in conclusion, between the two, and I guarantee tech falls into it as well. For those who are doing it, stop trying to do 50 things at once, whether it's any of the three, and stop trying to be a hero in 15 different sectors, and stop trying to have 4 startups at once and being an advisor on this board and a consultant to this company for your resume or for your LinkedIn to show how awesome you are. Do one thing really well and it will pay you really well. Or do 5 things and some of them, I don't know, one might be, but no, and you only got about 20% in each. So you're only getting minimal amounts of money in each. But that one I know, if I just focus and put everything into that, can really skyrocket. If you feel that way emotionally, you might be able to get others to believe in you as well, and it can happen. But nobody's going to believe in the guy that's like, I don't know, man, I just got like too much going. Well, I don't want to work with you either. So, yeah.
Yep. No, I think it makes perfect sense, and I'm a testament to that. I call it squirrel syndrome. Whether it's getting bored or trying to not have all my eggs in one basket, I've been certainly convicted of that more than once, and it's come back to bite me every time. It's never worked out until you have Richard Branson, Elon Musk, or Mark Cuban money. Just nope, doesn't work. Again, Doug, really appreciate you having on, man. I think this is awesome. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this, whether they're in sales and marketing or not. Really appreciate you jumping on and taking the time.
Yeah, Stephen, thanks for asking. I've had fun too. Appreciate it.